Welcome back, everyone. Time to do another comparison this time around between the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 8. Now, the iPhone 8 came out in 2017. The iPhone 12 Pro is that brand new iPhone from Apple. This cost $1,000 brand new. This one costs, I think, like a couple hundred, I think like $200 in the used market. And I'll find the cheapest ones of both these, link them down in the description below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely see that the iPhone 12 Pro is bigger in pretty much every single dimension than the iPhone 8. It's wider, it's longer, and rightfully so. The iPhone 8 has that 4.7-inch IPS panel on the front, so definitely a smaller panel to today's standards. You have quite a bit of bezel on the top and bottom, I can say that right. And you have the home button, standard stuff. It's definitely not an ugly panel, but when you compare it to a lot of phones that we have nowadays, it's definitely not the best looking phone in the world. The SE2 that came out this year also reincarnated the same pretty much body, so it's definitely not outdated, but it definitely is a bit of an older design for sure. But when you look at something like the iPhone 12 Pro with its 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, it definitely looks far better in my opinion than the iPhone 8, and that is something that I don't think it's like a deal breaker or anything, but it is something to kind of consider. When you have a phone that looks as good and as up to date as the iPhone 12 Pro, you're definitely going to feel like you have a more, I guess like more of a solid device in my opinion, and that's something that's pretty important to note in my opinion. So definitely when it comes down to both, I think the iPhone 12 Pro is the better looking one. The iPhone 8 still looks okay for today's standards, but definitely doesn't look as good as the 12 Pro. In terms of the thickness, you can definitely see that the iPhone 12 Pro definitely looks a little bit thicker than the iPhone 8. I think the iPhone 8 is actually pretty thin, and I think it's, from what I've heard, one of the thinnest iPhones Apple's ever made. So that definitely looks pretty good in my opinion. And on the back, I have a cracked back on my iPhone 8, but a glass back on both, frosted glass back on the iPhone 12 Pro, that looks pretty good. Triple camera setup with the LiDAR sensor. iPhone 8 has that single camera setup, but definitely like the back of the iPhone 12 Pro more. And in terms of everything else, and definitely when it comes down to it, I think the iPhone 12 Pro is the better built phone for sure. You're getting wireless charging on both the MagSafe capability on the iPhone 12 Pro. You're getting better IP certification from the 12 Pro as well. So that's another thing. And I think the 12 Pro is just a better feeling phone overall. So I think in terms of the outside, the 12 Pro definitely wins. In terms of software, they're both running iOS, so it's a pretty easy comparison. The iPhone 12 Pro is about 3 years newer than the iPhone 8, so realistically it's probably going to be lasting about 3 years longer, which is pretty typical, and I'm expecting that. And I'll definitely say with both, you're still getting the same day updates for as long as they're supported, but realistically in terms of the longevity of both, the iPhone 8 is probably going to end support realistically sooner than what the iPhone 12 Pro is, but still for the next couple of years you probably won't have to worry about updates or anything. So in terms of software, that pretty much covers it up. Let's go and do a little bit of a speed test between them. The iPhone 12 Pro has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 12 has that Apple A11 Bionic chip inside of it with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one is a faster one between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, let me go and clear all the apps in the background. And they're cleared out, so we can start loading up the App Store. 3, 2, 1. And you can see the 12 Pro is definitely far ahead of the iPhone 8. There's a pretty big noticeable difference. Getting into some gameplay, let's see if there's a difference here, or in terms of the smoothness. And scrolling speed seem about the same. I don't really see a big difference between them, so that's probably the same there. Now, as always, I have a bunch of these third-party apps we can go and get into. Let's do Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And already we're kind of seeing a big difference. I think the 12 Pro is pretty noticeably ahead of the iPhone 8. I feel like we're going to be loaded. Okay, so we're close to being fully loaded on the iPhone 12 Pro, but we were still loading on the iPhone 8 on that front panel. And definitely you can see that was quite a bit of difference getting into the actual gameplay. Let's see if there's a difference. And I don't think there's going to be any stuttering on either one, but I'll definitely say when it comes down to the performance, it's about the same, but the loading speed was definitely far faster on the iPhone 12 Pro. BOFA, 3, 2, 1. And the 12 Pro already loaded, and the iPhone 8 Plus, or iPhone 8 eventually gets into it, not the iPhone 8 standard iPhone. Let's do Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. iPhone 12 Pro faster, iPhone 8 shortly behind, Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. Again, 12 Pro faster, iPhone 8 behind it, Netflix, 3, 2, 1. And I feel like I'm going to continue calling this the 8 Plus this whole entire video. iPhone 12 Pro gets into it, iPhone 8 shortly behind it, Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And the 12 Pro gets into it, iPhone 8 shortly behind it. And for some reason, this app keeps glitching up on the iPhone 12 Pro. I don't really get it. I think it snaps into it, but that's very weird. I don't know why the 12 Pro keeps glitching there. We can do Paper IO. I don't think, I do have a 3, 2, 1. Now this game opens up this way, which I don't really like games that open up in landscape, but I guess it's okay. And it is technically faster on the iPhone 12 Pro, shortly behind on the iPhone 8. Let's do Stack, 3, 2, 1. And the 12 Pro is faster. iPhone 8 eventually gets into it, but it's very short. Like there's not that big of a difference between them, but I think the performance will probably be overall better on games. These games it doesn't really matter. It's a small game, but on bigger type of apps, you're probably going to get a better performance on the iPhone 12 Pro. Let's do Fruit Ninja 3, 2, 1. Now both of them may be on different versions of the game, so kind of keep that in mind. It's been very weird. But even to get into this panel, it was faster on the iPhone 12 Pro, and I guess they're on the same type of thing. So even to get into this panel, it was faster on the iPhone 12 Pro. I'll probably just leave it there for future comparisons. Let's do Facebook. Don't have it. Let's do Paper Out 2. 3, 2, 1. And again, the 12 Pro is faster. iPhone 8 a little bit behind it. Not a crazy big difference, but definitely noticeable one. And I think if you're going from one game to the other constantly, you're probably going to be getting a better performing phone from the iPhone 12 Pro. I mean, it's just kind of a given. We can go and end it off with the Road Racing 3. 3, 2, 1. And I mean, this one is kind of obvious as to which one may be the winner every single time. I think the 12 Pro has consistently been the faster one every single time. I don't know if it's going to change here. Maybe it will. I don't know. And the 12 Pro still is the faster one. The iPhone 8 is probably going to be behind. And I think definitely the iPhone 8 held its own down. I think I was surprised about this is the whole entire performance of this phone. The 12 Pro obviously is the faster one as expected. The iPhone 8, I guess, is never going to get into it, or maybe it will. You're definitely going to see a better performing device and just a faster device overall on the iPhone 12 Pro than on the iPhone 8. You can see how big of a difference that was. There was a lot of time that I had to spend just kind of rambling and just talking to kind of even pass the time there. That was huge. So definitely when it comes down to the performance and speed and app openings and all that, you're definitely going to be getting a faster performing device on the iPhone 12 Pro. And you actually have 3 times the amount of RAM on the iPhone 12 Pro as well. And in terms of RAM management, it's definitely looking like the iPhone 12 Pro. It's going to be doing better here too. Every single app that I've opened for the most part, I guess, has opened up kind of the same except for Temple Run 2. Actually, the iPhone 8 is doing a pretty good job here too. And like I said, performance is definitely going to be faster on the iPhone 12 Pro. RAM management has actually kind of been about the same except for that Temple Run 2 restarting. The iPhone 8 has actually done a pretty decent job at keeping that app open too. Let's do Snake versus Blocks. And that's very weird. Why did the iPhone 8 was able to keep that app in the background, but the iPhone 12 Pro actually restarted that one? That absolutely makes no sense to me at all. Let's see this one. The iPhone 8 kind of restarted. So I think the RAM management is very weird on these devices. I don't know if it's a software issue, but I've been experiencing it pretty much in every single way. So I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully Apple fixes it with iOS 14, but RAM management, I don't think it's crazy faster. I think the performance is definitely a better, indicator of the, how much faster the phone is rather than the RAM management. So in terms of speed, iPhone 12 Pro is faster. RAM management is a little bit better, but not as good as I was expecting. So that pretty much covers it there. Let's go ahead on the cameras. I stated before, triple camera setup on the iPhone 12 Pro with the LiDAR sensor. iPhone 8 has a single 12 megapixel wide angle lens. You have that 12 megapixel wide angle lens, 12 megapixel ultra wide, then 12 megapixel telephoto lens on the 12 Pro. Now, in terms of the UIs and everything, they look almost identical. You do not get that extra sensors on the iPhone 8, which kind of sucks, but I think that, in terms of the way they look and everything and the way they're going to take photos, it's going to be about the same. You can do 4K at 60 on the back camera. On the front camera, though, you can do 4K at 60 on the front of the iPhone 12 Pro, where you can't do it on the iPhone 8, only 1080p. And I feel like that's probably going to be the biggest problem between these two. The iPhone 8, as stated before, I think has an overall really good camera for a 2017 phone. I think it's held up extremely well, and I feel like the only downside of it would be that lack of dual camera setup. You can do 4K at 60, you still have a lot of capability for the most part, but definitely when you compare it to the 12 Pro, it definitely doesn't hold up as well, I think, especially in this day and age. When we have phones that can do way more different things and has way more capability, you have portrait mode on this phone, you have 4K at 60 on the front camera, you have night mode and all those different things. It's definitely going to make a better phone overall, in my opinion, on the 12 Pro because of the camera sensors, let alone the software improvements and all those other things. And you have those extra sensors too, which are really cool in my opinion. So definitely when it comes down to it, I think the iPhone 12 Pro is probably the better camera. The iPhone 8 is still good enough for the most part, but the iPhone 12 Pro definitely wins. Now ending it off with the battery life, the iPhone 8 has a much smaller battery than the iPhone 12 Pro, but the 12 Pro had a smaller battery than its predecessor, and I've already done a battery test between these two, and I pretty much found that the iPhone 8 did not last as long as the 12 Pro by a couple of hours, and I think I should be having this battery comparison hopefully up on my second channel before I upload this video, but if not, the iPhone 12 Pro does have better battery life than the iPhone 8, so in terms of everything, and to kind of sum up this whole entire video, Should you pick up the iPhone 8? Should you pick up the iPhone 12 Pro? Which one should you get? I can definitely tell you my opinion. If you have an iPhone 8, going to the 12 Pro is going to be a pretty good upgrade. You're getting a better looking screen, just a better looking phone overall, a longer lasting phone, better cameras, better performance, all those different things, better battery life. But I still feel like with the iPhone 8, if you can make it last a little bit longer, I'll say go for it. I think the iPhone 8 is still a pretty decent phone, and I would consider this kind of like a mid-range budget phone. I don't think it's a really good budget phone, in this day and age, but I would say it's like a pretty decent one if you already have it. I think this phone still has a lot of qualities that still make it a pretty good phone. You have a really good build quality, wireless charging, IP certification, iOS updates that are still going to be supporting on this phone for a long time, in my opinion. Probably it's going to be lasting until like 2023 or something. I'm not really too sure. That's just a number I threw out there. Performance is still pretty good. It's still pretty smooth. And for a majority of people out there, they just want a phone that just works. And with the iPhone 8, it's not a new phone. It's been out for a couple of years. Everybody already knows how it performs. It's a good, stable phone for the most part. I feel like the main areas with the iPhone 8 kind of lacks in is probably screen. It doesn't have the best looking screen. The battery isn't the best. The cameras aren't the best, but they're still really good enough for the most part. If you're somebody who's like a student or you're somebody who just, doesn't really care about their phones too much, the iPhone 8 I think is still a really decent phone for a majority of people. And if you have it, I would recommend keeping it until the iPhone 13 comes out. But if you have the iPhone 12 Pro, or if you have all the money in the world, getting the iPhone 12 Pro is obviously it's the better phone here for sure. But I don't think you can go wrong with keeping your iPhone 8. I would recommend keeping it even until the iPhone 12 Pro goes down in the used market. That's probably what I would end up doing, but that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.